Today I'm checking out the ZD Classic Legend, Ling Cage Edition, a controller that stood out to me because of its D-pad and its looks. Usually you expect this to be a game collaboration, but Ling Cage is actually a Chinese animated TV show. The ZD Classic Legends comes in black and white and costs $30 or $40 with a dock. The Ling Cage Edition I have here, however, can be bought as is or with some extra goodies and comes in at $63 and $76 respectively. Added to the look and goodies, the Ling Cage Edition has some spec differences, so be aware of that. Speaking of, the first difference is the sticks. The standard version comes with Hall effect, while this one comes with TMR sticks. Then both use micro switches for the D-pad, but the Ling Cage steps it up a notch and uses them for the face buttons and for the bumpers. Then the D-pad itself is replaceable, but the other styles need to be bought separately as a pack of 5 for $10. Next we have a 0.96 inch screen for some settings. This seems to be a trend that has been starting to catch on in recent times. The same can be said for the triggers, which features two modes, analog and hairpin. Next you also get two back buttons for mapping a single key or a 32-step macro. It then can be connected via cable, 2.4 GHz and Bluetooth, with the first two featuring a 1000 Hz polling rate, and that for PC, Switch, phones and cars. And all of that is running on a 600 mAh battery, promising around 8 to 12 hours of use per charge. And lastly worth noting is that the dock acts as a 2.4 GHz receiver, both on the included one with the Ling Cage Edition and on the one you can buy for the standard version. All in all, a nice set of specs, and I do think the differences do help with the price feeling a little bit more justified. Now I'm getting into the unboxing and my first impressions. Now let's see what's in the box itself. It is quite large and shows some of the specs on it, but that's about it. It's relatively light as well because there's a lot of padding inside. So let's check it out. First of all, the big thing that stands out is this here. This is a standee which you get with the special edition for the show. You get one of 4 the way I've seen it online, and I got this one here. This is what the standee looks like. It's overall quite nice. The artwork is really crisp. I was a bit worried at first because you can see that the artwork is not in the middle. Like cheaper standees, they often have the artwork printed on the back so it can scratch off. But this is kind of like 1/3 plastic, then the art, and then 2/3 of the plastic. So quite nice. Or about 1/4, I would actually say. So yeah, pretty cool. Double layered standee. So if you're a fan of the show and you want some merch, that's one way to get it. No idea what this character is called. Maybe I'll figure it out at some point. You also get a button of the same character. And this is what the button looks like. And I don't know if you can see it on the video, but it's a little bit holographic. I didn't realize that at first. It looks kind of nice, like a, like a Pokemon card, I would say. It has this nice green emerald-ish shimmer, just like the controller. I really wish actually that the controller would have this. This would look really fancy, but probably isn't too practical. And funny enough, I didn't even realize that at first. You get thumb covers for that character as well. So if you want to grapple the character while you play, you can do that with the special edition. It has some fuzz on there from the top here, which is kind of interesting. Added to that, you get also 2 normal ones with the logo of the show. These are also the special edition exclusives. And the 2 sticks, which, there we go. Let me get them out. They're a bit hard to get out. There we go. The 2 sticks, actually. Oops. Then you get this little card, which I don't know what it does. A USB A to C cable, which it's not the stiffest, but also not the highest quality feeling, I would say. Then the dock itself, which is quite nice. It's quite light as well, though, so I'm a bit worried about that. But it seems to be made in a good quality, all things considered. And of course, the biggest thing is the controller itself, which is inside. Yeah, it looks really nice. It's pretty much just the Xbox shape, which we're all used to, like the Xbox One-ish kind of shape. But it looks quite nice. Now let me add those sticks for a second. There we go, sticks added. Now let me see if there's actually something else in the box. leave here, nope. So no manual, which is quite unusual actually for a lot of controllers. I'm not used to seeing that. It does appear to be a bit flimsy, as I suspected. So you shouldn't, knock against it too much or like hit the table too strongly, otherwise it might knock over. Also, something I didn't see is a receiver. So I do think this is the receiver. I hope, because otherwise I might be missing something. But let's try this out later. So now, first opinions on this controller. Like feel-wise, from just holding it, it's quite nice. I do like these slightly hard edges here. That's something I haven't seen yet on many controllers, or any controller really. It's kind of nice. It differentiates the sides from the top very well. The sticks, very smooth. Nice. I feel no ridges, nothing. Probably because of the rings here. A lot of controllers have that these days. The buttons, nice and tactile. I like the travel. It's not the deepest travel, I would say. I would like a little bit more, but it's not bad. Start select, could be a bit better, but still it's fully alright. Middle button, this already turns it on. Have to probably check this out. Top, they are a bit clickier than I would have expected based on these buttons. But not too bad. The trigger is very smooth. I already felt them while just holding it. Very, very smooth. And it has a little bit, just a little bit of a debounce, I suspect. Then you of course have the... Yeah, that's nice. That's really nice. And last here is the D-pad, which this manufacturer pretty much only uses. Like, they only use this one if you look at their website and all the controllers they make. So, nice and tactile. Very, very sensitive, I would say. Yeah, very sensitive. You almost need no force to activate it. I'm going to be very interested to see how the actuation force is going to be on that. But not bad. I kind of like this style. I've never seen the square one, like the off-center square one. It might take some getting used to, but I don't hate it. So yeah, my first impressions. Overall, the controller is pretty nice. A bit plasticky. I wish this would have like a nicer plastic here. But no sharp edges, smooth feeling, nice tactile feeling. So on a first impression, I like it. But yeah, with that being said, let's get into the actual hardware tests. When it comes to the hardware, I had a big problem at first with the wireless dongle/dock, which almost made me write this controller off entirely. Essentially, it would connect but be extremely laggy, and then not just disconnect but fully freeze until I plug the cable in and out of the controller. I somehow managed to fix this, however, by connecting the dock to various PCs, and once I used it on my third machine, it started to work on all of them. It seems to me like it needed a real Windows PC for the controller and dock to initialize themselves correctly. With that bit of info out of the way, let's get to the actuation force. A comes in at 140 grams, B at 135 grams, X at 145 grams, and Y at 140 grams. This is overall quite consistent, but also a bit deceiving, as the buttons themselves are a bit strange. They use microswitches, but have a spring or rubber membrane to give it some resistance. Because of that, the force comes more from overcoming that resistance than from hitting the microswitch. And we do see this somewhat in the D-pad, which comes in at a light 80 grams for up, 90 grams for down and right, and 95 grams for left. Pretty consistent there, but you really feel that sub 100 gram actuation force, as it feels like you only need a feather to touch it to activate it. This is however not true for start and select, which come in at a standard 190 grams, and the sticks come in at 725 grams for the L3 and 695 grams for R3. All in all, I can say that the individual segments are consistent, but might be a bit different from what you are used to. Then the circularity is something that might turn some of you off, as it is quite square, with an error rate of around 8% to 9%. This is also after calibrating the controller, so it seems to be just set up to be a square gate by default. But even if that doesn't bother you, what might is the symmetry, as it is really not that good, making it look a little bit lopsided. When it comes to the polling rate, however, you do get the promised 1000 Hz over 2.4 GHz and wired. As for Bluetooth, you get a pretty low 125 Hz. Now I'm getting to the macros, where I have to say that I'm a bit disappointed. This is because they advertise 32 steps per button, but by that they actually count the button presses and releases as separate steps. So for most of us, this actually means 16 steps. When it comes to these steps, however, I have to also test how accurate they are compared to their input. As you can see here in the graph, the buttons slightly shift forwards with every step, with the biggest difference being around 16.7 milliseconds, or about 1 frame at 60 FPS. This is definitely not the worst, but can cause some issues when precision is needed. The controller redeems itself a little again though when I test the consistency of the macro. As you can see, while the macro might not replicate the original inputs to 100%, it will replay them without any notable deviations. But how is it to actually use the controller? In general usage, with its familiar shape and layout, it's quite nice. That being said, it does take some getting used to when it comes to the face buttons and the D-pad. When it comes to membranes, you usually have to press down and then get a pop when the rubber falls. And with tactile buttons, you just get nothing until you overcome the switch's mechanics. With this hybrid approach, you have to overcome the springiness of the rubber until you hit the switch where it just gets pressed. It feels quite unusual and is hard to explain. Then you also get the D-pad, which is already kind of strange with its very low actuation force and its shape, both of which take some getting used to. And speaking of, I also did the contra test with it, which provided some fantastic results. Thanks to the shape, I had pretty much no wrong inputs. I'm honestly surprised, as I would have thought that this shape would be prone to misinputs, but nope, it's actually genius. I think the only way they can improve this is by making it a star shape. Speculating aside though, once you get used to it, this is a great D-pad. When it comes to the gyro, it does work as expected and has a nice amount of sensitivity. That being said, it does have a little bit of a tendency to move upwards when you do rapid movements. I already talked about my little odyssey with getting the dock to work and how light it is. So far I haven't managed to knock the controller over thankfully, but there's something that annoys me more which I have to mention. It's the light. This damn light is blinking the entire time when the controller is not connected, and on top of that it's a blue light, which I think just stands out more than any other color. The only way to make it stop is to connect the controller or by unplugging the dock. Otherwise, you have to do something like what I did and put something in front of it. I used a Snow Sky Echo Mini as the height is pretty much perfect for it. And with that, the dock has so far been my biggest adversary with this controller. But enough of that. Let's get to the conclusion. Before even getting to the controller, I have to talk about the dock/dongle. I'm really not a fan of how light and easy to knock over it is. Added to that is the constant blinking when the controller is not in use, and the whole debacle I had to get it working. ZD really needs to improve in this area. Then the controller itself, however, is something else. While the overall shape is very much aligned with an Xbox controller, it does some things that are different, but nice. The mechanical buttons, the shape, and the lightness of the D-pad, with the added bonus of the screen. I enjoy using the Classic Legend, but I think that it's not for everyone. I will keep an eye out on ZD from now on, however, as I am interested in seeing what else they will cook up in the future, because this has already been an impressive showing.